Hey folks, Dan Fedor here. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the state of Astronauts development and about feature voting, which you'll see in the next patch. A little after a month after launch, and I think we're in a place now where most people are playing the game rather than fighting bugs. I'm starting to see save games that have 6, 12, and in some cases more than 20 hours on them. So I see that as a good sign. People are actually playing the game, and the game's getting in their way less. Still plenty to do, of course, but people are actually starting to do some pretty cool things. And as we've moved out of stability fixes, we can now start to think about which features we'd like to add, which new content, quality of life enhancements. And just to be clear, bug fixing is always going to be top priority. So if anything does come up, we'll usually drop what we're working on to fix that, because ultimately the game has to continue working for anyone who currently has it, and then we'll get back to working on future stuff. So with that in mind, there's a few different ways we could go with what gets added next, and we thought it would be a good idea to see what the players of the game thought. What's the temperature like on the different ideas we could do? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the game and start a new one. I'll show you one of the ways that you can get to this voting UI. So just below the room you start in, there'll be a voting kiosk now. And if you right-click on it and use it, you'll see this is kind of like Peacock Pictures is a famous film production company in Astronauts. And so we've done this up as kind of like a choose the film you want to see coming to the film house at K-Leg. But each of these posters represents a different feature or content batch that we can work on next. All 6 of these things are things I think I'll eventually end up doing anyway, so this is more of a choose which one comes first, not choose now and then the rest get thrown away. Similarly, all of these things are, I think, equally important to future things. So, for example, No Way Down is talking about zero gravity. There are systems that we could add, but they'll depend on zero gravity working before we can do that. So you won't see some things mentioned in this batch just because they might make more sense if they came later or they depend on one of these features. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of work left to right, give you an idea what each of these things represents, and in any of these cases, you can click to vote. I'll just choose this one as an example. You can vote as many times as you want. We'll only count the last vote you send. And that way, if you change your mind a couple days later, it's no problem to just go back and vote. And it also means nobody can just click to spam vote. So, yeah, I'll just dive in. The first topic is Broke Down Frigate. And this is more stuff to do with damaged maintenance on damaged things, parts that wear out with normal use. So this applies to both things in your inventory and parts of the ship. And some folks have mentioned some concerns with, well, am I just going to be running an endless treadmill of repairing my ship? And I don't want it to be annoying. I don't want it to be like tedium that gets in the way of having fun. But I do want it to present interesting scenarios. So an example of what it might actually do is an air pump might start to wear out over time, and it'll start working less efficiently, or it might start making grinding noises or something. You'll walk by it and you'll be like, okay, well, that thing's going to need attention soon, but it doesn't immediately stop and then strand you in space. There may be things that do strand you in space, like I've mentioned a few times before that the Firefly episode, Out of Gas, they literally do limp on a faulty piece in the reactor for too long, and the ship just dies, and they're stranded in space and they have to deal with it. And I think that's a legitimate plot point to throw into this game. It's like I said, one of my favorite episodes. So that kind of stuff I think can happen. But again, the focus on this is going to be more meaningful things to do with your equipment, and maybe more to the point, just more than just a binary state between working and not working, like maybe some kind of gradual breakdown. No way down. So 0G, many of you have noticed, everybody still walks around as if they're on a planetary surface in the game. We do have the concept of weightlessness in that you can carry unlimited weight on most of the derelicts because they're not going anywhere. They don't even have gravity due to acceleration. But ultimately what I'd like is for us to simulate that 0G environment a little bit better. So that means being able to go over holes in the floor, float down a corridor, potentially get stranded because you're not able to grasp anything. I think obstacles in the ship might be sort of tacked onto this because more navigational challenges seems like it would be a fun challenge to me. So that's kind of everything involved with navigating a derelict and simulating that environment. And for that matter, I think we might even dabble in securing items so that they don't fly around during maneuvers. Anyway, there's a lot of cool stuff we could do in there too. That's in order. This is mostly focused on AI and crew stuff. So many of you have noticed crew is a little bit wonky still. A lot of what we've been doing is getting the thermodynamics simulation working and the building and repairs, flying the ship, all kinds of things like that, so that they're workable. But this whole time, social stuff has kind of just been sitting there waiting to be fixed. So part of this will be kind of getting the cobwebs out of that, making sure that's at least a little bit more predictable and reliable. But also, can we start to do things with the crew that are more useful? For example, instead of you starting the reactor, tell your crew member to go down there, start the reactor, or tell them to dock for you if you don't have time to or don't want to dock. I think there's a lot of things we can get the crew doing for you, as well as just smoothing over the crew hiring and firing process. So that's a little bit more both reliable and fun. Again, I think all of these things have significant impacts on gameplay, and it'll be hard to choose, but whichever one you choose first will be a good choice. So special delivery, this is more stuff. So things like air scrubbers have come up a few times. Like if we want better control over doors or crash couches or even just decor items, like we only have a few different choices for wall style, and I think one floor style that you can actually use. There's more we could add in the way of letting you customize your ship visually and with more functional equipment. So this would be just kind of like a care package to give you more to play with there. Tourniquet is medical stuff, injuries, medicine, conditions, and ways to deal with them. It's already kind of there, but you don't get to see it a lot because there's only a few things that can really harm you right now. But this is a fairly sort of bedrock component for a lot of future stuff, including combat. Like it doesn't make sense to have combat if you can't get injured or killed. So in order to see some of those downstream things, you're going to need to see some of this first. And I picture this working a lot like Neo Scavenger for anyone who's played that. So injuries are fairly detailed, and different injuries require different treatment types. There's no magic potion that's just going to heal you. We are in the future, so maybe there is some kind of like really expensive medical facility that can reconstruct skin or something like that. But for the most part on your ship, you're going to be dealing with near future medicine that still requires patience. Anyway, though, this is its own cluster of features. And then another port is Someplace to Go. So a lot of you playing the game have already sort of mastered getting around the scrapyard around K-Leg, and the challenge there has mostly become tame. the next step, the next logical step is, well, can I go to someplace far away? And these are like multi-day, sometimes multi-week trips. So this means two things. First of all, it means a place for you to go and something for you to do when you get there. Some reason to go there, I guess I should say. But on top of that, we're going to need a way for you to get there without spending actual days of your time or actual weeks of your time. So that probably means some sort of time acceleration feature, like hit this button and fade to black, and we fast forward to the next interesting thing that happened, similar to what you'd see in a TV show. Each of these things is not going to be a quick thing to do because they each have kind of their own challenges and multiple things within them. But it gives us kind of a way that we can direct our efforts and sort of engage you in the decision-making process for those. In terms of voting, we're going to probably leave this vote open for 2 weeks. We expect people will probably vote quite a lot in the first few days. They might taper off, so we'll send another reminder right before we wrap it up. But that gives us, I think, enough time to capture everybody who's interested in voting. A couple weekends worth of window. And then once the votes are in and we kind of discuss our options, we'll let you know which of these things we're going to go forward on. And probably, it's hard to say without knowing which one it's going to be, but I have a feeling none of these is going to be like less than a month of work, probably more. But we'll try to get, similar to what you've seen so far, patches coming pretty regularly, so at least you can see things as they develop and play with them as they go. One more thing I'll show you before I sign off is if you're already starting a character and you don't want to start over to do this, you can also just go over to the PDA over here. The vote button opens that same menu. So you can vote at any time during a game. Just mentioning that because it's there for convenience. But yeah, this is where we are. We're now starting to get into fun stuff. At least I like to think this is the fun stuff. And I've been loving all the feedback I've gotten so far, so I'm excited to get started on the next step. So I'll talk to you all soon.